Hi and welcome. In this video, I'll be going over what we need any family who is planning to interact with us over Easter weekend to keep in mind. Simply put, I and my 4 children have celiac disease, so there are some special measures that we need everyone to take to ensure that we stay safe and healthy during the Easter weekend. Celiac disease is a serious autoimmune disease that occurs in genetically predisposed people where the ingestion of gluten leads to damage in the small intestine and other organs. When people with celiac disease are exposed to gluten, a protein found in wheat, rye, and barley, their body mounts an immune response that attacks the small intestine. These attacks lead to damage on the villi, small finger-like projections that line the small intestine that promote nutrient absorption. When the villi get damaged, nutrients cannot be absorbed properly into the body. So what is gluten? Gluten is found in any foods containing wheat, rye, barley, or oats. It is also used in many products such as medicine, dog food, makeup, shampoo, body wash, and cleaning products as a binding agent or thickener. Gluten is a really sneaky ingredient and goes by a lot of different names. Additionally, even products that have a cross-contamination warning with gluten on the label are enough to make someone with celiac disease very sick. Common foods that contain gluten are things like bread, cookies, cakes, pies, and crackers, cereals, baby food and teething biscuits, pasta, dog food, prepackaged nuts, beer, ale, porter, and stout, candy, and soy sauce. So what exactly happens when someone with celiac disease gets exposed to gluten? Some of the symptoms can be stomach pain, vomiting, both food and blood, diarrhea, swelling of the stomach, inability to think clearly and control emotions, anemia and malnourishment, and the worst of all is non-responsive celiac disease. Non-responsive celiac disease is the most concerning thing about this diagnosis. It's the point where you've been exposed so much that your body's reaction doesn't stop. And unfortunately, you eventually die from those complications. This is why my family does have to be so absolutely particular about where we eat and where we visit. Also, unlike most allergic reactions, these reactions take a long time to stop, and there are no medicines available to prevent or stop a reaction from happening. So once we're exposed, we have to endure the symptoms until our body decides the gluten is gone. So a really common question that we tend to get asked is, don't you have to eat gluten to actually be affected? The answer is no. Once you're diagnosed with celiac disease, you already know not to eat gluten. The problem comes from unseen sources of gluten. One really problematic one for our family has been an airborne gluten. In other words, we breathe in gluten flour particles in the air and it makes its way into our stomach. Examples from our family have been Feed My Starving Children's chicken bouillon powder, walking by concession stands at the state fair, and going over to a family's house for a holiday when they were baking the day before. Another common source of illness is sneaky crumbs and flour residues on surfaces. This one especially affects the children because they'll sit anywhere and touch the seat or table and get those crumbs and flour on their hands. All it takes then is simply moving those hands toward their mouth, nose, or eyes, and they've been exposed. This has been a problem when we go to restaurants, picnics, church, and small groups. Unfortunately, all it takes to get someone sick is a microscopic amount of gluten. In fact, the legal standard for a food to be certified gluten-free is that it contains less than 20 parts per million of gluten. Another common question that we get asked is, how sensitive are people with celiac disease? The best way to think of the celiac disease response to gluten is to treat it like a peanut allergy. The reason peanut-containing products are no longer allowed in schools is because those with the allergy have a severe reaction to a very small amount of peanuts. Additionally, the reaction gets worse with each exposure until even an EpiPen no longer works and the person dies from their allergic reaction. While the symptoms don't begin immediately after exposure like a peanut allergy, they are still very severe and usually start within 6 hours of exposure. During this time, the body's killer T cells, which normally kill off viruses and bacteria in the body, are now attacking any cells within the body that have started absorbing gluten. This usually starts in the intestine because that's where food is absorbed, but then moves to other organs, leading to inflammation in the body. This inflammation is a secondary attack common with autoimmune diseases and tends to result in problems like canker sores, eye styes, arthritis like pain in the joints, even your fingertips, bladder issues, and fertility issues. These reactions go on for weeks after exposure. If the intestines are attacked too severely, then we must go to the hospital for treatment for dehydration and malnourishment. In fact, I almost miscarried Abigail because of an exposure reaction while I was pregnant with her. So by now you're probably thinking, I eat gluten, so what could I possibly do? We are not trying to tell any family that you must be gluten-free on this trip. But if you want to spend time with us, we do ask you take a few precautions. First, after eating a gluten-containing meal, wash your hands, and if you plan to converse with us, consider brushing your teeth. If you have a beard, please brush it out as well to eliminate any crumbs. Second, if it wasn't a very messy meal, you can brush off your clothes and should be fine. But if you are planning to hug me or the kids, please consider changing your clothes to guarantee there are absolutely no crumbs. Finally, please don't offer the kids any food. We love you and we love spending time with you, but unless food has been prepared in a dedicated gluten-free kitchen, it is cross-contaminated. You might also be asking, I have kids who eat gluten. What can I do with them? Little kids are another really tricky area for us because they're messy eaters. So if you are bringing your kids around mine, please give them a bath, brush their teeth, and change their clothes before seeing us. If they like to snack in their car seat, consider vacuuming it out to remove the crumbs. If you're not willing to take these steps, we must ask that you don't plan to visit with us. I and my children have become very ill due to gluten exposure from other playmates. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. We know that following these guidelines can seem overwhelming. If you think that you won't be able to keep us safe, then we do ask that you don't plan on attending events held at Sandy and Alan's house in order to keep our environment completely safe. I hope this helps everyone understand better how to keep our families safe so that we can enjoy Easter weekend together. Thank you.